Hey, how y'all doing? I'm Breyionna Flowers and welcome back to the Black Hand Side. In the last video, I talked about how it was really hard for me to get past the 1870s wall when it came to enslavement. I mean, I was looking through Ancestry.com, and as far as my ancestors, I was really only able to get to the 1870s census form for almost every side of my family. I talked about doing the 23andMe results video this time. However, major breakthrough, I actually started watching Finding Your Roots. If you're really into genealogy, it's a really great show on PBS. They interview a celebrity. The host is Henry Louis Gates Jr. and then they actually do a genetic test for all of them and then track their lineages through census forms. So they take it back as far as they can go, and for some of the guests that goes back to like the 1500s, especially if they are from Europe or even the Americas. Some of those go to like the 1600s, 1700s. So they can get pretty far back, especially with all the documents that are available on Ancestry.com. So you have marriage certificates, death certificates, baptismal records. If you're Black American, you have the Black Freedmen's Bureau records. There's so many different ways to track your family. They use all of that for Finding Your Roots when they track these celebrities. And so the latest episode, if you watched it, I believe this is season 9, episode 3. One of the guests was Niecy Nash. And so I was like, oh snaps, let's get into it. I want to watch this because just kind of knowing a little bit about her. If you don't know, she's an actress, comedian, and so she's really big in Hollywood. Having her on the show for me was like, oh snaps, let's go. Especially since I know that she is, I believe, from California. So it's always interesting for me to see how they track Black Americans who live up north to their families down in the South. During enslavement, most African Americans were enslaved along the eastern coast from Virginia and down, and then across the South. So I was kind of guessing like, where, is she from? I had put my money on Mississippi and Alabama. I don't know why. With her being from California, oftentimes those were the regions that a lot of people came from when they migrated up north during the Great Migrations. I was like, okay, Mississippi, Alabama, let's see where it goes. I was watching the show and they did one side of her family. Then it gets to a point where Henry Louis Gates Jr. is like, okay, we have found your 4th great grandfather. I'm like, okay, let's see who this is. I'll see what state he's from. And he goes, we have him living in Union County, Arkansas. Pause. If you looked at my last video, you saw that I posted census forms for my family. And one side of my family, my mother's father's side, they're from Union County, Arkansas. So I was like, hold up. Ooh, our people live close. That's what's up. So I'm continue watching, and he goes, we have your 4th great grandfather. His name is Aaron Cobb. That sounds somewhat familiar. I pull up my family tree and I'm still like listening, because I'm like, it's possible that her 4th great grandfather might be related to like my family in that area. So I'm still watching the show, and he goes, and we have on a census form his wife Matilda. And I freeze because y'all, I kid you not, and I'll post something here so you guys can see, but my 4th great grandfather's name is Aaron Cobb, and my 4th great grandmother is Matilda Cobb of Union County, Arkansas. Like, they lived in different small townships in Union County, but one of the main ones was Jackson Township, which was a community made for Black people. And so I was like, hold up, ain't no way. So I pull up my census form, I'm looking at it. Then he pulls up a census form for Aaron, and so I'm looking at it and I'm realizing This is the same census form I have for my family. And Henry Louis Gates Jr. goes, hey Niecy, so we were able to actually track Aaron beyond the 1870s wall. What? Because this is something I had been trying to do and was not able to do. So what happened was Aaron Cobb was actually from South Carolina. So what I found on Winston Cobb and his father being from South Carolina was actually true. So Aaron Cobb was born in South Carolina. He was enslaved on a plantation in Anderson County, South Carolina, and I hate to use the word owner, but he was enslaved by a man named Joel Brazil. So Joel had a lot of land in South Carolina as well as in Alabama. So what appears to have happened is he actually moved to Alabama and had land there. So now that makes sense as to why at the same time Winston's other information says that his father was from Alabama, because technically his father did live in Alabama as a child. And then from there, I believe the census form that comes up, not census form, but the documents that come up say that Joel Brazil then wills, which is trash enough to put it in your will that a whole human being is your property, and once you die you want to give this human being to someone else. And it was very common during this period, and this is just a part of American truth. But Aaron was willed to the daughter of Joe Brazil and her husband. Her husband was Azariah Cobb, and Azariah was from Arkansas, lived in Union County. That's how Aaron actually got to Arkansas. I was thinking, like some of my other ancestors, that he moved to Arkansas from South Carolina or Alabama after the Emancipation Proclamation was signed. But I found out through finding her roots that that's not the case. So the paperwork is there. The trail is there showing how Aaron Cobb got to Arkansas. There was definitely pain there, just knowing that all of this happened to a child. I mean, it's bad enough when these things happen to adults, but he was literally a little boy taken from his family and just sent across the South like a pair of shoes or something, like a whole human being, a child. And so just to kind of think what he went through, and the gruesome work, the labor, that he had to put in as a child. But I'm thankful, I'm definitely thankful that he endured these things so that he could be here. But what I also learned on the show is they kind of wrap up this section for Niecy Nash by saying that after enslavement they did find Aaron Cobb living still in Union County, Arkansas, but that his son Henry Cobb was a neighbor. And so I was like, oh wow. So I'm making further connections of the dots, because on my family tree I have Henry Cobb as the brother of Winston Cobb. So not only am I making those connections, they're verifying things that I kind of already knew and thought. And like I said, he is living in Union County with his wife Minnie and their children. When you scroll down from Henry Cobb, you actually see Winston Cobb, my third great grandfather, Aaron Cobb's other son. And so I was like, well, why didn't they put that on the show? Like, you know, that same last name. But then I started digging further. Unlike other forms that I have for Winston, on this particular form or census form in the 1870s, they have him listed as mulatto. And I think that's why they couldn't make that connection, because for all of you who don't know, mulatto, especially during this period, pretty much means you have a white father and a black mother. Since he was born into slavery, it would suggest that his mother was raped by a man of European descent. However, he's listed as black on everything else, so what I think is he's just light skinned. Because of that, he might have leaned into the mulatto identity just for better treatment. I mean, that's the nature of colorism. It still happens today, where people of lighter skin are treated better in most cases, differently, given certain privileges, especially during this period, that darker skinned black people did not get. But like I said, it's colorism. We still see it today in the black community, the Latin community, Asian community, any place that was really touched by colonization and slavery. We see how there is this ideology kind of pushed on people of color that the closer you are to whiteness, meaning the lighter your skin tone, the more pure and pretty and great of a person you must be compared to a darker skinned person. So that is just something that is stems from colonization that we are still working to overcome. And so I believe that that was the disconnect, and why he probably wasn't considered, at least by them, to be Henry's brother and Aaron's son. However, when we look at the 1880 census form, he's definitely listed as a black man, with his father being from Alabama and his mother being from Virginia. If we look at the 1870 census form for Aaron Cobb, it has his birthplace as South Carolina. Aaron's wife Matilda, it says that she's from South Carolina as well. Then we go to the 1880 census form for Aaron Cobb. It has that Aaron Cobb was born in Alabama, and that his father and mother were also born in Alabama. And if we click Matilda, it has that she was born in Virginia, and that her mother and father were born in Virginia. So, like I said, this is what had me pretty much kind of confused on how to connect those dots. But like I said, on that census form, the last census form we have for Winston, it says the same thing that their last census forms say, which is that Aaron was born in Alabama and that Matilda was born in Virginia. So that is that connection there. And so despite all of the trauma that comes with knowing what happened with Aaron, his story, his struggle, I am happy that I know now, and I have everyone behind Finding Your Roots to thank for that, as well as with Niecy Nash being on that show, because I never would have known, I never would have been able to move past 1870 had I not known or had not seen this information presented on Finding Your Roots. And so this just kind of goes to show that everything I said about Ancestry in terms of the family tree is so important, because you really can just go through and look at all the documents and kind of put those things together. Because let's say, had I not done my family tree, even if I watched Finding Your Roots in that particular episode, I never would have been able to make those connections. It's only because I actually made my family tree on Ancestry that I was able to see, oh snaps, that is my family. What? Niecy Nash is my cousin? Stop playing with me. Stop playing with me. And I mean, that's the power of the family tree option in Ancestry.com. It's dope. It's dope. Thank you guys for joining me on this episode. I am Breyionna Flowers, and as always, peace, love, and light. And next time you see me, give me 5 on the black hand side. I'll see y'all. Peace.